There is a passage in the Bible that has been read for centuries, studied, reflected upon, and discussed across generations, and yet its meaning is still debated today. Not because it is hidden, but because it may not point to a single interpretation. Some texts, through their very nature, seem designed to provoke thought, to challenge our assumptions, and to guide us toward a deeper kind of reflection. They are not simple instructions, but intricate tapestries woven with layers of meaning. These passages invite us to look beyond the surface, to consider the context, the symbolism, and the historical currents that shaped them. The debate itself, ongoing for centuries, might be part of the passage's enduring power, ensuring it remains a living text, speaking to each new generation in its own way. Throughout history, certain biblical passages have raised questions that remain unanswered, not due to a lack of faith, but because interpretation itself plays a central role in how meaning is understood. When we encounter these texts, we are engaging with words that have traveled through millennia, translated across languages and cultures. Each step of that journey adds a new layer of perspective. Some scholars suggest that the ambiguity in these passages is not an error or a flaw, but a deliberate feature. It creates a space for personal reflection and communal discussion, allowing faith to be a dynamic, evolving experience rather than a static set of rules. The questions these passages raise are often more powerful than any single answer could be, encouraging a continuous search for understanding that spans a lifetime and connects believers across the ages. Biblical texts often rely on symbolism rather than direct explanation. Images, structures, and patterns frequently communicate ideas that words alone cannot fully express. Think of the metaphor of light and darkness, the imagery of a shepherd and his flock, or the structure of a temple. These are not just decorative elements. They are powerful conceptual tools that convey complex theological and philosophical ideas in a way that resonates on an intuitive level. A single symbol can hold multiple meanings, unfolding differently depending on the reader's own context and understanding. This symbolic language transcends the limitations of literal translation, allowing core truths to remain accessible even as languages and cultures change. Some interpretations suggest that focusing solely on the literal text can cause us to miss the richer, more profound message encoded within the symbolism, which often speaks directly to the human experience in a way that plain language cannot. These passages were written in historical contexts, far removed from the modern world. Languages evolved, cultural references shifted, and understanding changed as generations passed. To truly grasp the potential meanings of these texts, scholars often look back at the ancient world in which they were created. They study the original languages, Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek, and how certain words carried connotations that are lost in modern translation. They examine the cultural practices, political situations, and philosophical ideas that were common at the time. Historical records suggest that what might seem obscure to us today could have been a clear reference to a contemporary event or a common cultural metaphor for the original audience. This historical distance is a key reason why some passages remain open to debate. We are essentially trying to bridge a gap of thousands of years, piecing together a puzzle with many missing pieces, relying on academic rigor and interpretive insight. Some interpretations emphasize literal meaning. Others focus on symbolic significance. And some examine historical and linguistic patterns that suggest deeper layers of understanding. The literal approach treats the text as a direct account of events and instructions, valuing straightforward clarity. The symbolic or allegorical approach, on the other hand, sees the stories and laws as vehicles for conveying deeper spiritual or moral truths. For example, a story about a journey might be interpreted as a metaphor for an individual's spiritual path. Then there is the historical critical method, where scholars analyze the text as a historical document, trying to understand its origins, authorship, and the world it came from. These different lenses don't always lead to the same conclusions. What one sees as a historical fact, another might see as a powerful metaphor. This diversity of approaches is central to the ongoing scholarly conversation. These perspectives do not necessarily contradict one another, they coexist, which may explain why scholars continue to debate certain passages even today. Imagine looking at a diamond. One person might describe its chemical composition. Another might talk about the way it refracts light. A third might discuss its cultural value as a symbol of commitment. None of these descriptions are wrong. They are just different ways of understanding the same object. Similarly, biblical interpretations can be seen as complementary facets of a greater whole. A passage can simultaneously hold historical truth symbolic meaning, and a literal message. The ongoing debate among scholars is not always about proving one interpretation right and others wrong. Instead, it is often a collaborative effort to appreciate the full, multi-dimensional richness of the text, acknowledging that its meaning might be too vast to be captured by a single viewpoint. Perhaps ambiguity is not a flaw, but an intentional feature, allowing meaning to unfold differently depending on time, culture, and perspective. A text with a single, unchangeable meaning might become a historical artifact, locked in the past. But a text that invites questions, that leaves room for wonder, remains alive. It can speak to a person in ancient Jerusalem, a scholar in a medieval monastery, and someone reading on a screen today, all in profoundly different yet equally valid ways. This inherent flexibility might be what gives these passages their timeless relevance. The ambiguity creates a space for personal engagement, forcing each reader and each generation to wrestle with the text for themselves, to find their own meaning within its ancient words. It ensures that the act of reading is not passive consumption, but an active, participatory dialogue with the text that continues to evolve. If you are drawn to exploring these questions with curiosity, respect, and depth, you are invited to continue this journey with us. The search for understanding is a path that has been walked by countless people for thousands of years. It is a journey that values questions as much as answers, and one that is enriched by a diversity of voices and perspectives. By approaching these ancient texts, not with a desire for simple certainty, but with an open mind and a spirit of inquiry, we connect with a long tradition of reflection. Exploring these profound mysteries can be a deeply rewarding experience, offering insights not only into the texts themselves, but also into our own understanding of the world and our place within it. We encourage you to subscribe and join our community as we delve into more of these timeless topics. What do you think this passage is still trying to communicate?